Welcome back to another episode of The Lawyer You Know, and today we're doing a deep dive on Lori Vallow's newest attorney, Jim Archibald. The court has decided that Lori Vallow needs a death penalty certified attorney as her court-appointed attorney, which gives us an indication as to whether or not Mark Means is fully a private attorney. It seems as if he is more of a court-appointed attorney at this point. There's some kind of overlap there since she did retain him in the beginning, at least that's what he said. Now he's getting some funds from the state, so he's technically court appointed. So they decided that because the court and the state of Idaho is making the decision as to who Lori Vallow's attorney is, she has some say in that with Mark Means, but they are going to appoint at least a co-counsel in Jim Archibald. So let's learn what we can about this Jim Archibald. He is a public defender, which my dad and I have talked about on multiple videos. Most of the death penalty certified criminal defense lawyers that have the most experience in death penalty cases in every state are public defenders because they are most likely to handle these kinds of cases. Most of the time there are court-appointed cases on death penalty cases because the person that's been charged with a capital punishment type case usually doesn't have the funds to hire a private attorney, and usually private attorneys do not have the time and resources to handle a bunch of death penalty cases, and we'll talk more about that later. So as we do this deep dive into Jim Archibald, make sure you stay tuned until the end because there are some really surprising factors that could come into play in future appeals for Lori Vallow, even though Jim Archibald is in fact death penalty certified. Make sure you subscribe to our page and like this video if you like this content. We are going to follow this case and follow all the lawyers in this case. A new thing we've been doing is trying to get a deep dive and understand a little bit more about these lawyers. And the first way we do that is always to Google and try to find the lawyer's website. And you may think that's weird with the public defender. Maybe we can't find a website. But Jim Archibald is referenced in a bunch of news articles as a public defender and private criminal defense attorney. So I guess he's able to do that in Idaho, have some of his own private clients that he represents in addition to being the public defender. Okay, so he actually does have a website, and let's take a look at it. It is jimarchibaldlaw.com. If you thought Pryor's website was bare bones, this is next level. He has one simple paragraph to give his biography, which I think is important and shows us a lot about what we need to know about Jim Archibald. He has been an attorney since 1991. He's tried over 85 jury trials in Idaho state courts. He has won jury verdicts of not guilty in criminal court in 10 different counties with clients charged from DUI to murder. He appears regularly in divorce court and has won custody cases for his clients. There's one other tab to click. That's contact him with his phone number and a Gmail address as his email. So technically he does do some private cases. Okay. So to take the next step, I decided to see if there was any AVO profile, if there was a Super Lawyers profile, if there was a Martindale Hubble profile, some of the other ones we've looked at with Pryor and Means. I don't find him anywhere, but that is not abnormal for somebody who is primarily a public defender for most of his career like Jim Archibald. So none of that is really a slight against him, but he does have a bare bones private website, so he can be hired privately, not just for criminal defense, but also family law. Now for him, that's a little strange to me, and we'll talk a little bit more about that as we get into some of the issues with Jim Archibald taking over this case. So the reason Jim Archibald was appointed to represent Lori Vallow in this situation and at this time is obvious. He is death penalty certified. He is one of only 2 attorneys that are death penalty certified in this district where Lori Vallow is going to eventually be on trial. So that's going to open up some questions. What if Chad Daybell needs a court-appointed attorney that's death penalty certified? Will it be the only other one? Will Jim Archibald co-counsel both of them? He can't do that, would be my guess. But we're going to see what happens because the intrigue of this case being in small town Idaho is what's really going to have us keeping our eye on this situation going into the future, because back in 2019, the ACLU, the American Civil Liberties Union, filed a lawsuit against the state of Idaho saying that their public defenders were too overworked and not providing effective assistance of counsel for their clients in court-appointed cases. So therefore, there was a huge disparity in clients that had the public defender versus private criminal defense lawyers. So money was making the difference as to whether or not you get a fair trial, what your sentence was, all sorts of things in the criminal justice system in the state of Idaho. And these numbers are crazy. And Jim Archibald was actually quoted throughout the entire article as one of the public defenders in Idaho that was, in fact, overworked. But let's talk about what case numbers were proposed by the state of Idaho for each one of their public defenders to handle, okay? This is insanity, okay? The proposed case number, I believe it's per year, for public defenders that the state proposed, which means they were even higher than this before the ACLU sued them, for misdemeanor cases, which are the lowest level cases, simplest cases, least jail time cases, was 520 per public defender. Felony cases, which are much more serious and can go all the way up to life in prison, 210 felony cases. Juvenile cases, 232. Okay? Archibald was interviewed mostly about death penalty cases because they said only 2 death penalty cases were allowed to be handled at a time by one public defender. And Archibald said one of the reasons that the state proposed that is it takes 20 hours a week just to defend a defendant in a capital punishment case. So when we look at what Mark Means is doing and running a full practice at the same time, do you think he's taking 20 hours a week to represent Lori Vallow? Maybe the court didn't think that was possible, which is why they've now appointed another attorney on her case. And Jim Archibald knows he's done this as much as anybody else in Idaho. It takes at least 20 hours a week to handle a death penalty type case. Is John Pryor doing that? That's something we're going to hear about, that would be my guess, going into the future. But I think it's really interesting that this state has already been sued because their public defenders were not providing effective assistance of counsel, mostly because they were overworked, not because they're incompetent. And the ACLU is saying it's totally unfair. If you have a public defender, you have less of a chance of success in this criminal justice system in Idaho. And if we just compare some of these numbers, specifically felonies, which are the more serious cases, Idaho recommended 210 per public defender. The ABA, the American Bar Association, only recommends 150. So small town Idaho public defenders are going to have more cases than is nationally recommended by the American Bar Association. Now, the big question for Jim Archibald is he going to be able to handle this case? With all the other cases he has, is he overworked? Now, he's obviously competent to handle this case because he's handled them in the past, some successfully. But is he going to have the time and resources necessary to effectively represent Lori Vallow? What do you think? Let me know in the comments. Now, knowing how overworked the public defenders are, especially in Idaho. Public defenders are overworked in every state, but the ACLU found it necessary to actually file a lawsuit against the state of Idaho. It's very interesting because Jim Archibald represents clients in 10 districts and 7 counties in the state of Idaho, which just tells you how many cases he has and how many clients he has. And we know he's in divorce court periodically, according to his website, and he handles family law cases, and he handles private criminal defense cases on top of his public defender workload. So what do you think? Is he going to be able to provide effective assistance of counsel to Lori Vallow? Let me know in the comments. We also got a few questions about people knowing private lawyers that get court appointed, not just public defenders. So how does that work? Well, in the criminal justice system, in just about every state, I believe it is every state, if the public defender has a conflict, meaning they're already representing one of the co-defendants or they're already representing one side of this equation and therefore they're conflicted out, sometimes the court will have to appoint a private defense lawyer to be paid by the state to represent somebody in a criminal defense case. And there are court-appointed lists that criminal defense lawyers can apply to be on. Some private criminal defense lawyers apply to be on this list to get experience, to become board certified, to get death penalty certified, just to be in the courtroom. Some of them supplement their private criminal defense cases with some court-appointed cases because the government's paying you hourly. It's a much reduced rate, but it is something. So there are a lot of criminal defense lawyers in every state that are private but still handle court-appointed cases. So you may hear that a defendant is indigent or has no money, yet they have this private criminal defense lawyer. How can that be? Well, in some circumstances, like I said, the court will just appoint that private criminal defense attorney for a number of reasons. So let me know what you think about Jim Archibald. He seems very competent, but there is a worry to, is he overworked, and is that going to open up potential appeals for Lori Vallow, since this state is known for having lawsuits filed against them for overworking their public defender and not allowing them to be effective in their defense. That is a big wrinkle in this case. I'm interested to hear what you guys think about it. Let me know in the comments. Like this video if you like this content, and make sure you subscribe to our page. Thanks for being with us. Thanks for watching this episode of The Lawyer You Know. If you like this content, please share it with your friends. Make sure you subscribe to our page and like our videos. If you want some interaction, get in the comments and we'll be sure to get back to you. If you want to know any more information about our firm or this page, you can find out in the description or visit tragoslaw.com. We post multiple times throughout the week, so make sure you hit that bell so you can get the notification and not miss out on the next episode.